And some of it does feel like it's spinning wheels until you stop and look what you've done. And I think when you're in the middle of it, it's hard to do. You know, when you're in the middle of a dust storm, you can't see what the heck you're doing to the ground. But when the dust settles, you can actually see that you actually made some progress, you know.
Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by Overstock Dixie. You can go like and follow their Instagram. There's new items that pop up on there every day, multiple times a day. Anything from furniture to tools, electronics, pretty much anything you're looking for. Hey guys, welcome back to the Derick podcast. We are here in the vault again, episode 57. This is a good friend and someone that I've grown to know better and better really since we met. And so I got a lot of topics today I think we're going to be able to pull out of him. And he's an everyday dude. So this is really what this podcast was built around when we started it. He's one of the originals I reached out to. It only took us 57 episodes to get him on. So this is Brandon Armstrong. How's it going, man?
I'm doing awesome. How you doing, Derick?
I'm doing all right.
Good to finally sit down with you here.
Yes. I mean, we've only been trying for a couple of weeks. That shouldn't make it sound like we've been trying for a year and a half.
That's true. We're not that busy, although we're busy.
Yeah. And then there was 1 week I think I pushed you off. So most of it's my blame.
There you go.
That's the attribute of a leader, right? It's my fault.
Yeah.
Okay, man. Well, I think we've got a whole list of stuff, but I like to do just a small amount of background off of you, you know, where you're from, what you do for work, touch on family, and then we'll just kind of start diving into stuff. So I'll let you kind of throw that background down.
Yeah. So I originally was raised up in northern Utah, went to American Fork, graduated in 92, and me and a buddy knew a buddy that they lived down here in Hurricane. And we kind of got tired of American Fork, like, let's go move down to St. George. Ren lives down there. So me and my buddy Rio, we just packed everything we owned in our trucks. We quit our jobs. We had nothing here, and we just hit the road. That was in April of 94.
Okay.
And, you know, it's funny as I think about it, because within about a month's time, you know, I'd went and got a job at a plumb. I was delivering these tub and showers for a plumbing company. And it was clear up on North Bluff Street, and I lived clear up on Hurricane Main Street. So the commute was a pain.
That's a drive,
yeah.
Especially back then. When
back and forth from home to the freeway. The freeway drive wasn't bad, but anyway, so that lasted just a couple of weeks, and I got hired on at Bradshaw Auto Parts, who I'd been working for in American Fork before I had moved down. And it's funny, within that month's time, I essentially was dislocated from my friends. They had girlfriends, and one of them had moved back, and so within 3 months, I was the last lone survivor down here in St. George.
You're just hustling.
And I was working. I ended up getting hired on at Bradshaw Auto Parts, so I was working full time there. I ended up getting a job at a Shell gas station. I was working that Jerry and his family had run there. They live out here in Santa Clara, and then I was going to college part time. So I was very busy.
Sure.
And anyways, it's interesting because, I was very, very busy, you know, and I was debating. I'm like, golly, I really don't know that many people here, you know, but I like my job. I like what I'm doing. I love the area. This area is awesome because you like throw a dart and you hit the middle, and that's kind of around St. George, and you can go anywhere, drive 3 hours and be somewhere totally different. So St. George really grew to me. I really loved it. And I said, no, I'm just gonna, you know, see where it takes me.
And you're how old?
And so at this time I was,
20?
I think I was right around 20 years old.
Okay.
Yep. 19, 20. No, barely 20, because I turned 20 in May. So I was 19 when I first moved down. So anyways, long story short, that's what kind of got me down here to St. George, is a friend. And then I ended up staying here, and all the time has passed, and I've been here for a long time now. So, but it's been fun. I've always, you know, loved working with my hands. I actually was going to school for computer programming. My dad had done that. And I got up to Turbo C++, and I'm like, this ain't for me. I cannot sit at a desk and write programs and do that. I just, you know, I was one of these lucky kids that owned a piece of crap, and, I was brave and dumb enough to fix it myself. And instead of paying someone, I figured I could buy the tool, fix it, and then I have a tool at the end.
Gain a tool.
Right? Yeah. And, over the course of doing that, and working at the auto parts store, you get stuff at a discount. So you always were trying to find a piece of crap because then you could fix it up and not cost you as much, right?
Right.
And then I worked at the gas station at night. And just over time kept gaining knowledge. And a couple of years after that, I'd met a handful of very good people. A good friend of mine, Matt Lofthouse, which to this day we're great friends, and we do a lot together. Our families have grown up together. Keep in contact. Chris Anderson's another buddy of mine that we do a lot of stuff with. It's funny. We look at all these years by, and a lot of our good friends have moved, but a lot of them are still around, and we do get together every now and again. So it is fun in the aspect that everyone I knew and went to school with, and my buddies there, I've made a whole new connection of people down here. And I've actually still kept in contact with some of those guys. When they come into town here, we hook up and say hi. And, that's one thing, Facebook. I love getting on there and harassing people. And
say for good or bad. It's a good thing that Facebook does.
Yeah. Yeah. But, that's just kind of where it's kind of went. I was assistant manager there at the auto parts store for about 5 years. Right before I quit there, met my wife, which... Funny story. She actually was a friend of Julie, who's another good friend of ours, that somehow they knew each other from up in northern Utah. And she come down, she was actually engaged. She came down here and believe it or not,
Wendy was engaged.
Wendy was engaged.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Before.
Okay.
Well, no, when she came down, she was engaged. And it's funny, Julie says, well, you got to meet this guy. He's a good guy and he's got a cute butt. So that's actually what, in the end, how I got my wife is.
So she's a butt girl.
She's a butt girl, obviously. She came down. I was working at the Shell station. Stopped by. She said hi. We always had, kind of party barbecues, the bachelor pad, me and Matt, and all our friends would come over. We'd just have a good time. And she came over that weekend, and I guess I didn't pursue her hard enough, so she decided to pursue me like it was a challenge. And after that weekend, she decided she was gonna not be engaged and wanted to move down to St. George.
Wow.
And so, as my brother-in-law would put it, as I must have smelled good that night. So
must have done something.
Yeah. So anyways, that's what she did. She ended up moving down, went up and helped her get some of her stuff to move down. And I'll never forget her dad, the first time I meet, my soon-to-be father-in-law, and he says, I love my daughter, but just don't bring her back.
That's awesome.
I'm like, okay, well, I just kind of know her. It's not like we're really going out. To me, it was just we were just kind of friends. I had a lot of friends, and
you're like, wait, is there some red flags I need to know about?
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of humorous, but it's funny as we look at it back, now, many years later, how that actually transpired and how things worked. She was almost kind of a stalker, I guess you could call her, and she moved down and expected me to drive clear out to Leeds that she was living at the time to visit her. And I'm like, my truck's a gas hog. I'm a poor college guy that works every day and has like 1 or 2 nights off a week, and that's it. And but it's funny, 8 months later we got engaged, and the rest is history. So
that's awesome.
We'll stay together for this day.
See, I'd never heard any of that, so that's all new to me.
Yeah. So it's kind of a funny story. It's a funny story how we met and how, some things just work out.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the one thing I do for sure know about you, and it's something we've had in common and we've kind of bonded over, and it's funny that you touched on it when you were 19 about how busy you were.
Yeah.
And we've both of us run businesses. We have, multiple jobs. You've got Rolling Bones, you've got Flex, you've got your family, your property you've been working a lot on lately, or really working a lot on for a minute now.
Yeah.
But every time I feel like we're together, I have like a bitch session with you. and it's usually I spur it on, but I'm just like, man, dude, how's everything going? And you're like, good. And I'm like, well, let me tell you about what's going on with me. And then I kind of take over, and it's more because like I look up to what you're doing too, and you're at a higher scale than me. And so you have more employees, you have more things going on. And I'm just like, dude, how are you dealing with this? Because I can see that you would have that at a 5 times of what I do, right? And so it's always been a cool thing to be able to sit down with you and do that. But it's funny when you said, yeah, at 19, I was super busy. And the first thing that popped in my head was, well, like, that's never stopped.
Yeah.
And does it ever stop?
Yeah.
I mean, I've had this talk with Amanda I talked to her about it today. I called her and was just like, I feel like I'm just spinning wheels here, like I was telling Mallory before we started this, I'm like, I feel like I'm still paycheck to paycheck and all my money goes to trying to make more money. And I'm like, am I better off just stopping and just keeping that money? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. But it's funny. And I still have the same kind of mentality. I've always been busy, but it's weird because I feel like I've never chased the dollar bill. I've never let that be my drive, I guess I should say.
Sure.
To me, my drive has been, when I want to do something, I want to be able to do it. And some of that is having the time freedom to do it. Some of it's having the financial means to do it. But I'm a big believer on quality of life and making time for those moments because it goes fast.
Yeah.
I look and turn around and it's like we just celebrated our 25th anniversary. It's like it's bonkers.
25 years, man.
25 years. Yeah, I finally crested over the hill where I've been married longer than I was single now. Yeah.
So you've been with her longer than you weren't.
Yep. But, busy's good, though. I think busy, and some of it does feel like it's spinning wheels until you stop and look what you've done. And I think when you're in the middle of it, it's hard to do. When you're in the middle of a dust storm, you can't see what the heck you're doing to the ground. But when the dust settles, you can actually see that you actually made some progress, and when you're busy, it's hard to see that, especially when you're a small. I by all means don't have a big company. I have a small company still. I don't consider myself successful. I still consider myself an employee.
Sure.
Other than has to go and hide in a corner and do that crappy paperwork now, which I can't stand. I have to do that incrementally.
Yeah.
So I have learned that that's one of the nuances of owning a business.
Well,
but
I've been in your office. We have the same filing system.
Yeah. Shoebox office, man.
Yeah. At least you have a filing cabinet.
That's true. That's true. I wedged one in there, but no, it is. But it's funny. I love the outdoors. I love the outdoors. That's one place where I could just go and just sit and be okay with it. Like my wife, she'd like go lay at a pool out in the sun, and I'm like over in the shade relaxing. I'm the pasty white husband that, I work in this crap all day. Yeah.
I'm never gonna let you live that down now.
But hey, we got to have some quality, good, right? I've got artificial manicured turf up top now. Let my roots grow out a little bit, so at least I still have a bud, I guess. But
there you go.
No, that's it's fun. It's it is. It's interesting though because I never planned to be where I'm at. Never even planned on it.
Well, I think people that keep pushing and people that are busy, if we want to put that word to it. But you keep on pushing yourself out of that comfort zone. You can't plan for where you're going to end up, right? I mean, people ask me all the time how I got into the safe store, and I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I just kind of tumbled into it, and I just take the opportunities that are ahead of me and push it as far as I can until I find another opportunity. And I think you've done the same thing.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how could you ever possibly think that you're going to have and I do visualize, right? Like what I'm trying to be, but it changes. At least for me.
But it's kind of cool too, because if I'm not one of these career-minded people, I guess, I'm more of these, kind of just the blue collar work, rub some dirt on it, one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And that's, that's what I told my boys, I was in young men's for a long time. And I told them, I said, find something you're passionate about. If you can do better and more than the guy next to you, you'll do well.
Yeah.
If you're looking at the bottom end of what you're going to make in this career, this, that, and the other, you might be able to make more money, but are you going to be happy? And to me, that was never a question. I always stayed engaged because I always enjoyed what I was doing. I like being challenged. I like working with my hands. It's not the same obnoxious day in and out, in and out. There's always a different challenge.
Yeah.
With Rolling Bones and the hunting opportunity, that was a way I could step in and actually become involved in a passion of mine and something that I really enjoy. So how lucky am I that I get to deal with two things that keep me busy that I love to do?
Yeah.
So to me, that's a blessing, to
When you've been able to take that next step that's given you a little bit of time. See, I feel like that's where I'm at. I'm still trying to figure out how to gain a little bit of time because like we were saying, you have employees. I have a couple employees, but I'm still there hands-on every single day. I mean, you are too, don't get me wrong, but I feel like I just haven't been able to chisel those couple days out yet.
And it's hard. It's hard. It's really hard scaling and finding the right people because none of us are really replaceable. We're all different. I handle things totally different than the way you may handle things through a customer.
Yeah.
And a lot of people come to your place of business for you. You've built that rapport, you've built that relationship. They know you, they trust you. And to try to pass that on to someone else to take that over, that's hard.
Yeah.
I remember, heck, I was at Sunrise Tire for over 14 years, but I was at a Texaco there, at Ron's Texaco, for about 5. And when I left Ron's to Sunrise, we did a lot, before I was doing everything, oil changes, tire rotations, safety inspections. I was doing all that. And then at Sunrise Tire, well, they had other people for those positions, for those smaller things. And it took a long time to actually transfer my customer into allowing and feeling comfortable with somebody else doing that job because they knew how I did that job. And I had to be on hands-on and then slowly migrate, inspecting, babysitting, patting the guy on the shoulder, telling them what to double check and do and this, that, and the other. And then finally, that adaption process helped. And that's just like an employee. It's almost the same thing.
Yeah. So that almost really like transitioned you into what you're doing now.
Yeah.
That was a step you had to take to go to Flex, it sounds like.
Yep.
And then so what made you want to go from I just call it a 9-to-5, right? Like your employee W-2 9-to-5 job into and you bought Flex, right? Like you bought it bought whoever owned it before. So what made you want to make that transition? Because that's what always makes me interested in like why someone would ever want to do that. And I did it too, right?
Right. And
so, but it's always a different answer.
Well, it's funny. I can't complain. I loved working for Sunrise Tire, great family operated business, great hours. They always took care of me. But where I really wanted to be and what I wanted to capture, which was more time freedom, ultimately, it really necessarily wasn't about the money. I was paid on a flat rate, so I got paid by the job. So if I wanted to make more money, I would just do more work.
Yeah.
I'd manage my time better. And when you have a skill set, like in any trade, you can change, or I should say, you can exchange, money for time.
Right.
In essence, you're not handcuffed because your hour is your hour, because you're not an hourly employee. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so that gave me, I wanted to be to where I could still create something for the future and still be involved now, currently. And it was just an easy thing to do. It really was. Like I say, I don't feel like I own a business, to be honest with you, other than the crappy paperwork. That's a very cruel reminder.
Yeah.
But I'm a worker. So you know what I mean? That isn't why I opened the business to not work, because I still enjoy working.
Yeah.
I still do it. But it's to where I wanted to be in 10 years as an employee. Once I stop working, everything stops. Pay stops, everything. Well, in the owning part of it, you can still capture some type of an income, whether or not you decide to sell the business or whether or not you just take a percentage and you pay people to run and manage it. And I don't know what that'll be, to come. But that was kind of the ultimate thing. It was more in my control. It really was. When I stopped, it could keep going.
Sure.
It still had value. When I stop working, my value's gone until I start working again. When you own a business, the value's there by what you created, but there's still value even when you walk out the door. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think what people need to understand, though, with owning a business is, and I've struggled with this, and I'm far from perfect, and you've touched on it, is being able to hand that off. Like I'm a type red, I'm controlling just in general. Like my wife will tell you that, right? And so being able to, like example with holsters, like we built custom holsters, been doing it we're going on like, I don't even know, 9 years. No, I think we started in 2012, 8 years, whatever it was.
10 years, you went down the wrong way.
Yeah, 10 years. Yeah, 10 years. And being able and doing that myself in my basement for 6 of those years, never really teaching anyone else how to do it or what to do. And to me, I'm like, it's just basic tools. Like it's not rocket science, right? But I've realized that there are things that I see and I feel, just like you were saying, how you would handle customers, just different way of seeing it. And other people, like you might grab a holster and be like, well, I would have done this different and that different, right? But I've tried to teach, I've tried to teach like 5 different people on how to do holsters, but I'm so attached to how I make it look that I have a hard time letting it go. And I almost think it's going to be like the downfall of Weapon X holsters, because I don't have time to do it anymore. And we'll get custom orders in and I'll have someone's weapon for 2-3 weeks trying to get a holster done for them. And like, that's not realistic, you know? And I get it. And I tell people, I'm like, hey man, like this is my 4th job doing holsters. And if the store's busy, I'm not doing holsters. If I'm doing, dealing with anything else, that's the last thing I'm worried about. So it may get done tomorrow. It may get done next month. I really don't know. And it's getting me in trouble because people are like, dude, I thought you were thinking like a week or 2. And I'm like, sorry, man, like you can come get it if you want.
Right.
You're not going to have a holster. And so it's almost like putting a stain on it, and I have one kid that helps me every now and then. And he's like the best at it so far that I've been able to teach. But I'm almost thinking it's just going to die because I don't know how to let it go.
Well, and I think the way you explain that is because whenever you start anything and you make something of nothing, you have this emotional attachment and you're not letting go of that.
Yeah.
It's like, that's my baby.
Yeah.
You can stay away, but you can borrow it. You can play with it, but it's still my baby.
Yeah. And I think that, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think that my point is like, if you're going to do that and that's where you're at in your business or in your life or whatever your baby is, you need to, if that's your goal, like you had in the beginning, if that's your goal, you need to start working towards that, where I never did. And now it got so far to where we have a high demand. We have people coming in daily wanting holsters.
Now it's scaled up, but you've scaled down.
Exactly. Yeah. And now I don't have the time and I never taught anyone. And so it's like, and it's been a big lesson for me. And my people pleaser part of me, like still wants to take care of everyone. And like, I'm one dude, right? Yep. And I choose to do a podcast every week instead of build holsters.
Right. Well,
but I think that I wish someone would have told me that, because I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I just thought one day I would have like a shop of a dozen people building holsters.
Right.
And I never realized it would ever get to where it was.
And sometimes it takes that one, but sometimes it's how many rocks you got to flip over before you find that one. And really, for what I'm hearing, you almost need to actually turn that into an investment opportunity. And that way it takes your emotions out. Then you can strategically handle and align and manage it totally different because you're not attached to it. You're still attached to it because you created it, but you turn it into an investment point of mine. How would an investor do this?
Yeah.
How would he, would he sell it outright? Would he bring someone in and give them, some type of a wage, a very good wage, or is he going to give them some of the profit sharing on it? How do you scale it to where that person is going to be invested and that person is going to want nothing but the best going out, so you keep that customer satisfaction, that rate high.
Right.
And if you have your emotions taken out of it and it's just an investment, you're there to make that transaction and make it make sense for the new guy stepping up.
Yeah.
So you've just taken yourself out of the whole picture.
Well, and I think I've tried to do that once or twice to train someone to do it.
Yeah.
And it's both times it didn't really work out. And one of those kids, he's moved on in his own career, but he comes and helps 1 or 2 weekends a month, and I feel like I shouldn't even expect him to have to come and do it. Because I'm like, dude, you're on doing something else. You know, like I shouldn't expect you to have to come in and catch up where I'm lacking. But yeah, I mean, to start over now and try and retrain another new person, it just seems like too much of a headache. Where I'm like, I'm trying to move forward and I almost feel like that thing's holding me back.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a weird spot that I'm in with it. And I talk about it. I've talked about it on here a handful of times. And we still do holsters. I mean, I build holsters, you know, I mean, we were doing hundreds a month. And we have a bunch of stock built up now. And so we're just really doing custom stuff regularly where our store stock, our, you know, basic stuff is already built, just hanging. So people come in and they want one and we just pull it off the shelf and sell it to them. Yeah. I don't know. It's a weird thing. I just wish that when you were talking about that, I thought that's cool that you went into it with that mindset because I haven't had a business that I've gone into it with that mindset yet. And like when you were saying you're still a worker, when people are like, what do you do for a living? I'm like, I own a job. Like I own a 60-hour week job, you know. And
I still punch the clock. I work overtime for free.
I'm always available. Someone blows a tire and needs Brandon.
No, you know, it is. It's and it drives my wife nuts. You know, my phone goes off like crazy. You know, and the guys at the shop harass me all the time. That I sit and I talk and I BS and I'm like, it's called customer relations. I mean, that's part of the job, really. You know, and I've even asked a couple of them when they've been sitting there harassing me. I says, hey, if you just come in and I just treated you like a number, would you be back?
Right.
And they were very appreciative, and they says, well, no, I like to spend some time. I like how that's why I come here is because I know you and how you interact with me.
Right.
You know, I says, see, take that, guys.
See, I'm slowly realizing with me, because I'm getting busier and busier to where I'll line things up like, you know, every hour, every other hour, I've got to be here at this time, there at that time. But I talk too much. Yeah. And so when I get in a situation, like that's what I love about my life is and the podcast kind of came from that, was all these different people that I meet and I talk to, and I'll talk to anybody. Like, it doesn't really make me that nervous.
Right. And
like the other day I went to the chiropractor and I was like scheduling my last appointment there. I got in a car accident. So they're checking my back out and everything.
I didn't know that.
Last appointment, kind of a reassessment of everything. And I sit down and I start talking to the lady who I've got to know over the last couple months of going there weekly. And next thing you know, we're like a half hour later and her and I are chatting about her kids and what her son does for work and
into each other's lives. And
I'm realizing like that's kind of, and I like it. I'm not even saying it's a negative, but
it's a personality trait. I'm the same way. I get ridiculed for it all the time. My wife says, man, you should have been a woman. You talk to everyone and you won't shut up, you know, and it's just.
Well, and then the customer side of it, like I was with a buddy. We just got done shooting. I just got done shooting that 6.5 Creedmoor and I needed a bipod for it. And so we stopped, got a bipod, and in my mind, I could have went to a number of places or even online and bought this, right? And I knew I was buying the Magpul one that we shot with Rolling Bones. I knew that's the one I wanted. And I knew they had it. So I went there, and the whole time I just wanted to see the owner, you know? And I'm like, okay, like the whole reason I'm here is just to.
Because you knew him.
Yeah, because I know him. And I want to have a better relationship with him, right? And just for personal gains.
Right. So you want him to know that you're supporting him.
Yeah. And so I go in and I buy maybe the overpriced bipod. And as I'm leaving, he pops his head out. Hey, Derick, what's up, man? And I go over and fist bump him, shake his hand, see how he's doing. And then I leave. And I turn to my buddy and I'm like, and he's like, dude, I would never have paid that for this, right? And I said, well, dude, the whole reason I did this was to have that handshake with him.
Yeah.
This whole reason I came in here.
Yeah.
You know, we spent 45 minutes coming in here and maybe spent $15 too much on this thing.
Right.
But it was all for that relationship.
Yeah.
And you knew Ron Stout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Ron Stout really taught me that. We were going down to Dixie Diesel when they were in that building in the industrial, and they had an ice cream freezer. And I don't know how many people knew this, but we would go down there and Ron would start talking to everyone. He'd be messing with everyone. And next thing you know, like everyone's got ice cream sitting on these like couches and chairs. And he goes and sits down and we're all just like eating. And I'm like, what is happening? You know, like all these mechanics like wipe their hands off and come sitting down. And we're all chatting it up and talking. And I'm just sitting there in awe. But we're eating like these ice cream bars. And then as soon as everyone was done, we got up, everyone went back to work, and me and Ron left. And when we got in the truck, I was just like, what the heck? And I'm like, do you know those guys? And he turns to me and says, sometimes you got to take a half hour and just chat with everyone.
Yeah.
And like, I've always remembered that.
Yeah, just take a minute.
Yeah. And so when I get in those situations where people are like, dude, you talk way too much, like that Ron rings in my head. Of
sometimes
like,
you have to be the ear, because some people, you just need to be that vessel for people to get, sometimes people just need an out.
Yeah.
And sometimes a complete stranger all of a sudden turns into deep conversation and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
How did we even get there?
See, I do that a lot with people.
Yeah.
Like I thought everybody did that.
Yeah.
And then, as I get older, I realize that like I'm the odd one that I can pretty much, and you're the same way because you're open book like I am.
Yeah.
Like people just open up to you.
Yeah.
But I realized like in that, like that's exactly what those guys needed is they just took their lunch break or their smoke break or whatever and sat down and mixed it up with this customer that just walks around the shop like he owns the place,
That's funny.
But it stuck with me forever. And I've done a lot of my business dealings that way.
Yeah.
Like when I was trying to build holsters, build the company of holsters, I would just go into a gun shop and just mix and go back, and I'd sit back in the manager's office in his chair, just be like, what's up, man? And they're probably looking at me like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
But I just acted like I was supposed to be there.
Right.
And then you just strike all those conversations up.
Yeah.
And relationships are really, they're extremely underrated.
Yeah.
And I think when you go through things in life, you have to have that, family, friends, strangers. And I wasn't even going to segue this into this, but we've both been through some stuff where it was a big thing to have people reach out to you. Yeah. And for me, it was people I hadn't even talked to since high school, or maybe you never even had a big connection with, but someone just reaching out and just checking on you. But maybe that's a segue to kind of get into this other topic we had. And I'll kind of let you take it away because I don't even really know the full story about everything. And you don't have to get into the story. Maybe the after effects after. But your son, I'll let you take it because I don't want to butcher the story.
Yeah. So anyways, throughout my career, I finally had an opportunity to get Flex Auto Center, my own shop. So we opened that, closed the deal kind of the end of December 18, opened in January of 19, and just kind of getting things going and doing this, that, and the other. Of course, teenage kids and doing what they do is always a challenge. But yeah, it's an unfortunate thing that happened to my son in August. He was actually murdered. He was killed here in St. George. He was at some kid's house. They had a makeshift kind of a studio where they'd go and make music. And of course, I'm one of these guys that know there's three sides to every story.
Sure.
We're never going to get the truth of what really happened. But long story short, they claimed that the one kid's uncle was smoking meth and came out and tried to force a hand of Russian roulette. Went to my son first, and he says no. He knows guns.
Right.
He hunted with me. We've done. We've shot. So he knows what they could do, and he's like, no, I'm not gonna shoot myself or shoot someone else. And the story is that the guy says, well, I'll do it. So he spun it, pointed the ground, pulled the trigger for his shot, and then put it on his head and pulled the trigger, and it went off in front of 5 kids. So, it's just, it's a little surreal even to this day. You just think that they're just gone for a minute, here's a kid that was 18 years old, and being stupid, and it's sad and it's scary, but as I look back now, environment can change your world. Yet it's one thing in your control.
Yeah.
If you're in an environment and there's a door in that environment that you can't control, what's going to come through that door? Can you leave through that door? and it's sad. Yeah, we had a rocky start. We did. We opened the shop January of 19, lost our son in August. COVID came around the backside of that. But it was a very, very humbling experience that continues on.
Right.
That continues on, and I have people all the time, say, how are you? I don't understand how you're handling it so well. You guys are so strong. You're getting through this, and instead of the why me, and as I look back, I says, you know what? You can't. None of us are immune,
right,
to tragedy. None of us. And my thinking is, if it's poor me? Why would God do this? It would discredit how blessed my life really is. Because as much as bad things happen to us, or unfortunate things, we seldom take the time to look at all the good stuff that's on each of us, that's on our shoulders daily.
Yeah.
And we had a great life with Skylar, and we're dealing with Dylan, my other son, he still struggles to this day.
Sure.
He makes us hold our breath. Life is beautiful, full of opportunity, but it don't owe you anything. The world will chew you up and spit you out, yet there's opportunity and beauty in every corner.
Yeah, it's
I don't know. I mean, it's like we were in a movie. It's like it wasn't real. It's just how it happened and the way they say it happened and this, that, and the other. It's like stuff doesn't happen in St. George, but there's dark corners everywhere. There's, my heart goes out to, the kids that had to see that and everyone that was touched, but what an experience afterwards to, it's funny, my mom, ever since I've been down here, they've tried to get me to move back. And I says, no, I got a whole world of family. I consider my friends family.
Yeah.
My door is always open. My heart's open. I'm there to help in any way possible. You just have to ask. And she didn't realize until we had his celebration of life and his services what that was. And she came, and she just like, wow. I mean, just the amount of people that stepped up, that helped out. Our good friend Derick, did kind of a fundraiser to help us out in that. I mean, we had community support, we had individual support, I had neighborhood support for my family ward. I mean, it carried us, and it still carries us to this day.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I cannot imagine someone going through life, without that, without the love and support and having people reach out and care enough for them. And unfortunately there are, and so, yeah, it's a toughie, dude.
I think it shows your character, I think, a lot, where you were talking about how do you be so positive through this? And I don't know if positive is the right word, but how are you keeping it together? How are you still moving forward? And it makes me think of if we had Nicole Hilton and her mom on, and she had attempted suicide, and now she lived. Now she's paralyzed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so when she was still in the hospital, right after it happened, Amanda and I got into the hospital to go see her, and she was pretty much non-responsive, but we were throwing this fundraiser for her. So her mom wanted to get pictures and whatnot. Anyway. So we're walking into the hallway and we see her mom, and her mom's like, "Oh, sorry, I've been on the phone dealing with all this stuff at our house." And I'm like, "Well, what happened?" She's like, "Well, we put the dogs in the house and we came over here, and one of the dogs got in the bathroom and chewed the water hose to the toilet. And now our whole basement's flooded." And I was like mad. Like when she told me, I was just like, you can't catch a break, like they're going through all this stuff. Their daughter's probably not going to live. and they watched her jump off the cliff and tried to stop her, right? And all the stuff they were going through. And I just thought, what the heck? And like instantly I was mad for her. And she continues and she's like, yeah, it's such a blessing that this happened. And I'm like, what? And we're in the middle of the hospital walking down this like vacant hallway. And she's like, it's just a blessing because now I think having to rebuild that area is going to help us be able to make it wheelchair accessible for Nicole when she comes out of this. And it like hit me, right? Like I just hit a wall, like emotionally. And I was so mad. And then I was just like, man, like that's a character tell right there. And it's something I need to work on, obviously, because it wasn't even me and I was mad about it. But when you were talking about that, I was getting chills and thinking about when Barb was telling me that.
Oh yeah, my hair's been up on my arms the whole time talking about it, but yeah. I don't mind talking about it. It's it's something that happens to all of us. No one has not been affected by loss or tragedy or this, that, and the other, and I, we can't turn off. You can't. And I think that's what's hard with kids is we go through this with my son is staying in the moment and not pushing and pulling and crawling your ass out of that rut. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Time helps. Keeping busy and doing that helps. What's funny is I look back now, I look for moments to remember my son. And it's funny, every year I go hunting, it'll hit me. All these memories will just, you'll just sit down and just enjoy them. Just bawl my eyes out for about half hour on the mountainside. And I think, man, we did a lot. How cool is it that I was able to do that much? My dad's job was to go through all our electronic devices and look at pictures. And he come back to me with tears in his eyes and he said, you know what, son? You've given those boys 3 lifetimes already. And I says, well, yeah, we lived.
Yeah.
Like I say, time is one of those things I've learned that it's the most precious commodity out there. We can control it to a certain amount, yet we abuse it the most.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to force yourself and schedule things in. If that's how you have to do it. When you're busy, you almost have to schedule it in to do stuff. But you have to take the time. And not only for your family, you have to take time for yourself too. That's one thing that drives my passion. Going hunting with friends and my family and my son, and that is just going and doing it. Create a memories you can take with you. The wish of the could-haves, the should-haves, you can't.
Yeah.
And if you ever get to a point in your life where you don't have a hope or a dream, you better stop and reallocate. Because everyone should still have a desire to do something, complacency is a pretty bad place, especially when you're not using your time, you're not busy. You get an idle mind and complacency, that's trouble.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about living in the moment. That was the conversation I was having with Amanda this morning about spinning wheels. Right. And I'm awful at that. Like I'm awful I think people that just push. I mean, like I've mentioned before, like I feel like most of my life's been pushing against a brick wall but I never like turn around and see how far I've pushed that wall. Right.
Right.
But I think most people in my personality, that's what they do, like it's not a big thought to me to look back and see, we just built our dream house. We had our son. We have mountain property, all these things that I've always wanted. And like, we have it and more.
Yeah.
And I'm 33. Right. But living in the moment, you're spot on. More people need to figure out how to do it and then do it more. It was never something that was ever talked about to me growing up. You know, I was never even heard of it. Right. And then when I've heard people talk about it, I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Like, how do you even do that? Like, I'm looking at so far in the future, I don't even know how to just pause and be here. And like you, our little property on Duck Creek, that's where that came from for me. Being able to go up there, spark a fire and just sit and stare at the fire and just stop, and just kind of take it all in. Or sitting on a mountainside and in bright orange with a gun, know. And that really, hunting really did that for me too. And I've only been hunting for a couple years. And when you're sitting there and you have your binoculars and you're just watching, like every time my stories that I remember more are like just how I saw nature interacting than, actually harvesting an animal.
Yeah.
Like last year we were sitting up on top of this lookout, just kind of spotting, and there was a doe and 2 fawns moving around this clearing, and they were super skittish. And I was waiting for like the buck to come out. Right. And all of a sudden these 2 coyotes come at him from each way. And I started watching how they all interacted with each other, and they chased the doe and the fawn out of there. And then I lost them all, never saw them again. But just how it all interacted and how everything worked. It was just, and I thought like, that's what this is. This is just stopping. I wasn't thinking about work. I wasn't thinking about, our safe cells. I wasn't thinking about spreadsheets. I wasn't thinking about any of that stuff. And so hunting for both of us has been an outlet for sure.
Oh yeah.
Let's move into that. Let's talk about, so I just did my bear hunt, and I've talked about it on here. Most favorite thing I've ever done in my whole life. We're already planning next year. What's your favorite hunt that you've been on?
Oh, heck. Some of my favorite hunts have probably been the most unsuccessful, believe it or not. So it's really not about the thrill of, it's the thrill of the hunt and the adrenaline. It's funny talking about Skylar. His first buck was a fun hunt. It's one that I will always cherish and remember. We're driving around on the side by side, and it's funny, if I spot some deer, I'd get out and get a spotting scope, and we'd zoom in and say, hey, do you want to go after that one or not? It's your tag, your decision. So we've done that a couple times. So we're driving around, and it's funny. We drive up, and these 2 bucks take off, and we got. I'm trying to even think who was with us on the side. Anyways, the 1 buck takes off, so they start shooting at this one little buck, and this other buck's sitting right on the road, like 40 yards in front of us. So I'm just sitting there with my binos, just watching. I'm like, just squeeze the trigger, bud. You got him. I'm just sitting there waiting. Nothing. And finally I look down. He's trying to figure out how to flip up the stinking scope cap. So a little word of advice. If you're at the range, your scope things are always flipped up. When you go hunting or when you're at range, make sure they're down so your kids know how to flip them up. So anyway, so this deer takes off. I'm like, well, what do you want to do? Well, let's go get him. We'll go get him then. Let's go. So we start hiking up, and we start going. And it was kind of a weird thing how this was set up. There was almost like a little plateau. So there was only so many places the deer could go where we were going to see him. So we go, and we searched all the things. There was one left side that had a little draw. And I says, well, this is it. If he's not here, there, I don't know where he went, dude. So sure enough, we go over there, and there he is. So we get down, and I says, well, there's your shot, bud. So he's getting settled in there. It's with the doe too. The doe kind of starts getting nervous. The doe takes off. The buck's still looking at us. I'm like, now or never, dude. He's going to be gone. And finally he shoots. And this thing does a couple hops and does the old, roll and tumble. And he looks at me. He's like, whew, oh, man, I didn't think it was going to feel like that. He was just pumped and jacked and, all that stuff. It was just, it was so funny, just to see him. And now we're clear in there, right? I'm like, okay, we realized that deer was like 40 yards away from us on the road. And now we're clear back up in there. And of course they're young enough to where dad gets to do all the work, I'm skinning, I'm dragging it out. But it was the excitement and the adrenaline. First first hunts, first kills, however you want to say it, are always cool. You know, I remember years ago, I went up with my dad, my younger brother, and some friends in American Fork when we were up there. And I remember driving up. We were running late, you know. My dad's just saying, I just want to get a spike. They have the best meat, blah, blah, blah. So we're driving up. We get up. The sun's already up. I'm annoyed. You know, I'm like, well, come on, let's go. So we get down on this cliff, and the deer are just funneling down through, and finally one's walking, and they kind of single file out and start coming down. And about, you know, it's either the third or fourth one back, I just caught a little shimmer, just a little spike. What do you know? It's a little spike.
Yeah.
And I said, Dad, that third one's a buck. Are you sure? I don't see anything. It's a buck, Dad. Just shoot it. I still don't see nothing. Are you sure? I says, Dad, it's a buck. It's a spike. Shoot it, you know? And finally he took my word for it. Shot it. We go down there to get to, you know, start field dressing it. And all of a sudden some shooting starts up above us. And all of a sudden here comes this little buck coming down. So my brother has a 30-30. So he starts pumping a couple rounds and drops that one. So I'm like, holy crap, we got 2 deer down. Showed up late. Everything went wrong. We got 2 deer down. We're like, cool. And then, so we're sitting there working on those 2 deer. I had a couple buddies from high school, and they were up there. They decided to go push around this other corner and jump a pretty nice 4-point. He drops that one. So now we got 3 deer down. It's like 9:30 in the morning. And we're in this shell bowl.
By the way, that never happens for people that haven't done this before. It
took us... We'd basically each grab a corner, you know, a leg, and we'd just start going as fast as we could up the hill until our legs would start getting, we'd drop down. We had to do that 3 times getting out of there. But, yeah, I've had a lot of good memories, a lot of good hunts. Turkey hunting with my boy was a good one. Dylan, my younger boy, so he doesn't get excited. He never got jacked up and got buck fever. Me and Skylar are on that same. You know, maybe we have that little more emotional, exciting attachment to hunting and the thrill. And Dylan's just like Mr. Calm and collective. And you want me to shoot that thing? I'll shoot it. You know, his brother had an opportunity to a nice little elk. They both drew youth any bull tags, and we were up there hunting up out of Cedar City there. And Skylar had shot a couple times, and there ended up being 2 spikes, a little 5-point and a little 6-point. And Skylar had missed the 6-point. Well, we thought he'd hit it, and it went off one side. The other 3 went up and over this little knoll. They came back, and I says, well, it's a spike. If you don't care, I say hammer them. You know, we're already in here. And so he's setting up to shoot that thing, and all of a sudden that little 5-point come up. And I thought it was just a little rag, like a little, 3 or 4-year-old, 4-point. And so I'm like, don't shoot, shoot the one on the right. And it was 500 yards, you know. But I take my boys out. They're very good, proficient shooters. Dialed the turret to 500. Boom, one shot, boiler. That thing went over and tipped over. And it's so funny. I have a video of him where they went around because we tried to look to see if Skylar, hit that elk that he shot, but he didn't. And so they were on the backside, and I got a video of Dylan coming up on his elk, and he doesn't see it till he literally almost steps on it. And it is so funny. He just grabs his chart like, oh my gosh, it's right there. So
it's probably bigger than it looked in the scope too.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But I have so many great memories. Even turkey hunting. It's so where our property is, we got. In Enoch City does a youth turkey clinic every year. At least I believe they still do that. I don't know for sure, but then they give away a guided turkey hunt, and they give some calls, and you learn about the habitat and about turkeys and this. So it's a very informative, kind of a cool thing designed for youth. And I
kind of want to go do it.
Yeah. And anyways, So Skylar's name got drawn for the turkey hunt, and that ended up being up at that right-hand canyon, which we have property up there up above Mill. It's up Cedar now. So it's kind of cool because we have some pretty fond memories up there. But his turkey, it would actually gobble, and we'd go in. It wouldn't come into our call. So we'd go walk around. We'd walk around, and we're getting closer and closer and closer. And I don't know if have you turkey hunted?
One time.
When they call it drumming.
Okay.
It is the weirdest sound. It's when they kind of puff up their feathers, and it kind of makes this weird kind of sound like that before they gobble and do all that. And I says, dude, he's right there. We can hear him drumming. I've never heard one. And so anyways, I see this little pathway. He's using a 12 gauge, he can't shoulder a 12 gauge, so I'm putting him on shooting sticks where I think the turkey's going to come. I start calling. All of a sudden, this turkey comes out in the total wrong direction. I'm like, oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me. So there's one little brush right there, right? A little sage right there. As soon as that turkey goes down, I reach over, I grab his barrel, I put my head between my knees and put the gun on my shoulder and start calling. And all of a sudden, boom! So I hurry up and lift up, and the turkey's, on the ground flops. I never got to see him kill it, but
who can tell a story like that, though?
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, there's been times where I take my camera and I'm an avid archery hunter. I love to archery hunt. And of course, you're not very successful, but how close and how intimate you can get with nature is amazing. I mean, I've had deer come by where I could slap them on the butt, never knew I was there. And it's cool. I mean, I've had a big bull bed down 50 yards from me, and I'm in the Quakies up there in Fish Lake, and I'm leaning backward and forward with my camera trying to get some shots of it, and my autofocus kept zooming in on a quake and aspen, and it kept pissing me off, so I put it on manual focus, and I'm manually doing that, and all of a sudden the thing starts steps up, and I'm trying to get this cool picture. Well, he was on a shelf, so he took 2 steps and he was gone, and I'm over there fumbling with my stinking lens. I didn't get one good picture of him. I'm like, are you serious? But that's an out for me. That really is. That's one of those outs that everyone needs to have, But it is. It's a cool out where you can just sit up there and just sit in God's country and just. I'm totally content just sitting.
Yeah.
But in most instances during my day, just sitting drives me nuts. You get antsy. You get like Same. You got to be. But man, when you're out there, it's like.
I don't even got to see anything.
Yeah.
Just sit here. Well, let me take that. The first time I ever had a tag, deer hunted, anything, I had it lined up to go with the buddy, and it kind of fell through. And then one of your employees, my neighbor at the time, he said, "Hey, you going hunting?" He'd always ask me. We'd only hung out for maybe a year or two before that, and he'd say, "You going hunting? You going hunting?" "Oh, I got a buddy. We're going up with him." And then I think it was the night before, I just ended up seeing him outside, and I kind of went over and said, "Hey, what's going on?" And he's like, "Oh, getting ready to go up deer camp." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that whole thing I was bragging about kind of fell through, And he's like, "Oh, just come up with us." And I was like, "You sure?" He's like, "Oh, it's like a family reunion for us." "Yeah, dude, you come and just hang out with us." And so, and we didn't hunt growing up. We didn't have guns. We didn't have any of that. My mom's dad, my grandpa, he had guns and he had hunted, but that's kind of where it ended coming to us. And so I was jacked. I was kind of like, and I knew Terrence, but like I didn't know him. He had worked on my truck a couple times. And so I ended up just kind of going and driving up and finding where his family's all camping. And I drove in, and they kind of camp in the sand. And so I'm pretty sure I had my razor. So I think I dropped the razor and I drove in because I didn't want to get my truck stuck. And I'm like, this has got to be them. There's like 10 trailers and like 100 people. And so I'm like buzzing through these people's camp. And I'm like, well, I don't see Terrence or his truck anywhere. And his truck kind of stands out. And so I just went back to the truck, and I was like, well, I don't know what to do. I don't even know how to hunt, let alone if I shot one, I wouldn't even know what to do with it. And so then one of his daughters ended up buzzing over on a 4-wheeler. And they're like, "Hey, Derick." And I'm like, "Oh, is this you guys?" I didn't see anyone I recognized. And they were like, "Yeah, I was pretty sure that was you." And
we were hiding.
yeah, we heard your truck and we hid. And so I ended up riding back in there with them. And then that whole 2 weeks pretty much, I would work all morning, and then I would drive home, grab my gear, drive all the way out there. And I worked like 20 minutes from where we were hunting, but I couldn't take a gun to the post office. So I had to drive all the way back home and get my guns and everything and drive back out there. And then I would drive back in the dark, get up, work the next morning. And I did that for 2 weeks. And the whole time I was pretty positive. I was like, it's going to pay off, putting in my time. We didn't really see much. We had a couple that we weren't sure, like if it was a buck or not, kind of hanging out underneath the juniper trees. Right. And he had shot at one, I believe. Terrence shot at one. it got to the point where him and I were the only ones that had tags. And everyone else was packed up and leaving, and I was like, dude, tomorrow's the last day. And I'm like getting a little frustrated at this point, and he's like, no, dude, just come up tomorrow. We'll get you one. I got a spot. We're gonna go hit this spot. And so we go drive up there, and at this point I realized like he would have just gone home, like he was out there for me. And
now this was your first time hunting?
First time ever.
Nice.
First time with a tag ever. I mean, I hunt like coyotes and rabbits, but first time ever. And I kind of realized, like, it hit me when we were driving up to the spot in his Jeep, and I thought, like, he doesn't care. Like, he'll go home. He's doing this for me, and he owes me nothing. I'm just some neighborhood kid. And I've told him this, like, to this day, I'll never forget that. And so he ended up driving me up on this knoll where they had just, I don't know what it's called, where they like blade the trees down, where they just kind of knock down all the vegetation. And I see like 20 deer down, like 300 yards down this little swoop. And I'm like, dude, let me jump out. Let me run over there and see if I can see anything. So he puts it in park, and I jump out and go about 100 yards. And I'm looking, and it's just like doe, 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 fawn, fawn, doe, doe. And then there's a 2-point. We're talking last day. It's the afternoon, And so I turn back to him, and I like put my hands on my head like they're antlers, and I'm like, okay, don't get giddy. And
he's over there saying, dude, why aren't you shooting it?
Well, and so I had a 300 blackout.
Yeah.
And so I knew like 180, 200 was like my max range with it. And I knew that. And I took that because we were kind of in the brush. And so I was like, all right, I just got to sneak down here a little further. So I got into like 170, 180. And I just like free stood. Like I didn't even think to like brace myself or anything. And so I free stood, and I'm suppressed. And so like I shot, and you don't really hear anything but the bullet, right? And you hear just like, and you hear whap, and like it smacks it. And so I turn, and without even like paying attention to the deer, right? I like turn to Terrence, and I'm like fist bumping
up in the air.
And he's just sitting in the Jeep, like waiting to see what happens. And I turn back and look at the deer, and I can't tell which one was the buck again. So I pull my binos back up, and I'm like, okay, that was the 2-point. And he's still just standing there eating. And I'm like, I'm thinking it's like the movies where they just fall over dead, And so I'm like, what the heck? And so I pull my gun back up, and I'm looking, and I can't see blood. I can't see anything, but I'm like, I know I hit him because it was a distinct sound. And so I pull up again, I shoot him again. And the first shot, none of the deer even budged. Like they didn't even know anything was going on. And then the second shot, the 2-point kind of perked up and was looking around, and the same thing, shoo, whap. And so I'm like, what the heck, And I'm kind of looking at him. Now I'm like kind of worried about what's going on. And then it kind of starts taking a couple steps, and I'm like, oh, this is weird. And then all the other deer are starting to perk up now. And he starts like walking over to this tree line. And I'm like, well, I don't want to, if he gets in those trees, I'll never find him. And so I pull up again, I've got my scope on him again, and I lead him like to his front shoulder, and I pull the trigger, and same thing, whap. And then now his back leg, he's like not using his back leg. And I'm kind of watching him. All the other deer are taking off at the third shot. And then I see him start to go around this tree line, then I see him fall. And so I'm like, yeah, and
I did it.
Yeah, Terrence will probably tell you a different story because I'm pretty sure I said a few words I had to go repent about. And so I ran up to him, and I'm like, God, and he's driving down at this point because he saw it fall. And then luckily we had his Jeep because we pretty much drove right to it.
Right to it. Yeah.
We drove right up to it, and so then we could see the holes. So first shot, I double lunged him, just obliterated his lungs. But I don't think he knew that, right? So he was just standing there. And then my second shot, I gut shot him. And then the third shot, I hit him through the back leg. And that's what kind of drug him and dropped him. But yeah, and again, I know he's just doing this for me. So he's like, oh man, do you want to gut this? He's like, you got to go fast. You gut shot him. You got to get all this out. And so I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. And he's like, you've never done this before? I'm like, I've never even seen it done. And so we spread it out. He helps me field dress it, and we get them all cleaned up and throw them into the truck, and we're jacked. And like to this day, I'm just like, dude, I think your son's like, everyone wants to share that with their dad or their grandpa or whatever. And I'm like, I just had this neighborhood dude that knew me for like 10 months take me out shooting, and I had all those experiences and firsts with him.
Yeah.
And he's that kind of guy. I mean, he's a father figure for a lot of different people. Yep. And
he covers it up pretty good, but
yeah,
he's a good dude.
There was some drama going on with some other people, and they were trying to involve him. And I sent him a message one day and was just like, dude, I just want to let you know, like, you've been there for me. And we were building my truck when my dad had committed suicide. Mm-hmm. And so like the day I found out, I went to work on my truck that day, and I was going up there, and I was kind of just trying to be involved with my truck build, you know? And I kind of walk in, and Terrence is like, what's up? And I was like, my dad died. And he's like, what? And I was like, and he knew kind of my rocky relationship with my dad. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, dude, my dad died. And he came over and like grabbed me and like sat me in his office or out. I think it was just a waiting room out front. He's like, you good? And I'm like, I think, like, I'm not really feeling a whole lot, but I think I'm like, I feel like I should be feeling more, but I think I'm okay. And then he sat there and talked to me for, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes and kind of talked me through it, and more like, dude, it's fine. Like, everyone's going to feel different. You feel how you feel, and process this, you know, like, understand what's going on. And it was honestly like a conversation I never thought that Terrence would have, you know? And I don't know how this turned into a Terrence talk, but like, I was going to relate it back to relationships and things that you have with people. And he's a really good example of different relationships that you can have and spending time with people. But hunting, anyway, back to hunting, I see now, and when I talk to people, especially when they involve their kids, like when we went on that bear hunt, Ryan brought his kid, and I was very like in tune with how he was treating him, his firsts. He kind of had a story the same way where they were on this giant black bear, and he wasn't ready to take the shot when the shot presented itself. And then the last day he ended up taking this giant one when same situation, the exact same situation, and he was ready and took it. And so I was like very in tune to how they're interacting, and I'm trying to just gather all of that for when my day comes, you know, when I can get Will out there and start hunting with him. So, and you're one of those guys too, I look up to with your kids and hunting with them and having those experiences. Yeah. But
no, it's awesome. It's cool to share something that you love, you know, with your kids.
Yeah.
It don't matter what it is. Don't matter what it is. It's time in and time out. But it's cool to invite them in, you know, open the door of, hey, your old man likes this. Come check it out. And it's even better when they think it's cool and then they get involved. And then it's an easy transition. You know, that's why you see a lot of times parents more involved in sports than their kids sometimes, you know, because they enjoy it. They want to be a part of it. They want to support it, and they want to be fully engaged with them because it's not just a game anymore. You know, when you can root for it's like, you know, you go watch NASCAR. It's pretty boring unless you're picking somebody out.
Sure.
You know, if you don't have a favorite guy running around, that's just a long, long time to sit and watch the track go round and round and round. But if you've got someone specific you're cheering for or rooting for, you know, that changes the game.
Yeah.
You know, but no, it is. But it's funny, you know, you look back now and it's hard to sometimes be involved in some of your kids' stuff that they like when you get older, because you either suck at it, you can't do it if it's like video games or something like that. Or skateboarding or scooter, like, dude, I'm going to break something if I try that. You know, of course we try and it hurts, but
it hurts.
But yeah, the older you get, the more you kind of got to scale back on some of the idiocracy of trying to be the cool dad. But
see, and I started late, man. So I'm like, I mean, I've got an 18-month-old,
yeah.
So I'm like, I'm already feeling it. My dad had 4 boys by the time he was my age, and we were all in sports.
It'll be fun to watch later on.
Yeah, it'll be different
that way.
It'll be different.
Yeah, the challenge accepted.
Yeah. Well, he's funny right now because he's like, he was always, everything was mom. well, it's funny. He doesn't even say mom. He just says duh when it's mom, but he says daddy, like very clear. And the last like couple weeks, like I can't even walk out of the room without him freaking out.
Yeah.
And like, I've got to be holding him, or if we're sitting on the couch, he'll like do a little 360, like right into my side and wants to sit there. And then, when you're talking about things you're into, we have a pontoon boat and it's parked outside in front of our house. And every time we walk outside, he goes, boat?
That's
boat?
Funny. Yeah.
And it's truck. Everything is truck and boat. Yeah. And like Amanda and I both drive trucks.
Yeah.
And so every car is a truck.
Every car is a truck.
And I don't know. I'm just starting to like see those little things, and he's interacting with me a lot more the last like 2-3 weeks.
That age is awesome.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, sometimes I'm just like, dude, like you need to leave me alone for a second. I need a minute,
Wait till they can start asking questions. Like the terribles 2s, 3s, 4s. Those early years where they start getting their personalities. I absolutely loved them. My wife, no, she liked them when they were a little bit older. They were a little bit, self-sufficient.
Yeah.
A little bit. But yeah, those early years where they just bug you and ask you the same question. How come this is this? Why is this? Why is that? And, they got their little personalities. It's just, I don't know. I love kids. Kids are cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was on the fence with the whole thing for a long time, but I mean, I can definitely see like it's just a different experience. I mean, people would always be like, there's nothing else that can replicate this. There's no other feeling like this. And I didn't know what to expect. And now, I mean, I'm not even 2 years in, right? And I'm starting to see like, okay, this dude's pretty fun. Like when he's not crying and freaking out and hungry or whatever, we can sit down and have some fun. And my mom just got him this little like Ranger kit. So it's like this little pop-up tent that's like a Ranger cabin, and it has like deer on it. So he says deer now. And then it's got this little canoe looking boat thing that just a pop-up, and it has a fishing pole. And that's like his thing right now is he runs around with this fishing pole with me, and he'll hand me the fish and then have the pole, and he wants me to hook the fish on it. And I'm like, all right, we need to get you out on the real boat and see what this is really like, But yeah, dude, I look forward to it. And seeing people like you and people like Terrence and people, a lot of the people we've had on the podcast interact with their kids I've tried to be a lot more in tune with it, and, yeah, I mean, there are parts of it I was going to bring up with my dad. Like when I was bear hunting, we went to town and we were driving back to camp, and I don't know why, like, to be dead serious, like I don't really even think about my dad that much. We were driving back and it just like hit me. I was like, man, like this would have been something so cool to do with my dad. Like he would have loved this. And I don't even know why, because he didn't hunt. Like we didn't shoot guns with him. Like none of that was even him. But I think just being out here and being present, being in the wild, you got bears walking 6-8 feet from you, just walking around you. And I don't know why, but it just kind of hit me of like, man, that would have been cool experience to have with them.
Living can be tough when you've had loss.
Yeah.
That's one of the hardest things I think is watching the world go by and you're stopped for one reason or another. That part of it stopped. You're not seeing it grow.
Yeah.
You may see it, when you meet again and you move on to the other side and you go back home. But that's one thing that still continues to be hard when you see friends and grow up. They're working, they're getting married, they have kids, they go on their missions, they go to college, you're just like, you had plans of being there and witnessing and seeing all that, and when it's not there, it's hard. It's hard. I'll never forget the day we went back to church after losing Skylar, and we were thinking that we could handle it. We just sat there and cried. We just sat there and bawled our eyes out. We couldn't even, because you're watching the world go around, and it's hard.
Yeah. That's an interesting way to put it.
It is. Because there are so many moments in life that you were looking forward to.
Yeah.
With your kids. Like, oh, I can't wait till he walks. And then they start walking and running. And you're like, oh, I had Satan. He won't stop. He's into everything. They don't, oh, I can't wait till they can talk. And all of a sudden they won't shut up. They just keep talking, But there's those big things that you always hoped and wanted to be a part of and do this, that, and the other. And then it's not there.
Yeah.
I imagine with your father, it's like, I wanted him to be a grandpa, or something like that. Like I say, we all have those things when family and, I call it living and loving. You have to continue to live and love and just get through those moments, because time don't stop for you. Don't wait. You can't hit pause.
Yeah.
It's going to come and go. And what are you going to do with the time that you have now? And that's one thing I try to do a little bit better with, and I try to realize, this time isn't going to come back again. This opportunity like the door's open now. It's going to close in a minute. What do you do?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that we control that as we look back, we wish we would have done a little bit differently, but you can't. I would hope that you wouldn't live with regrets, though. It's funny. I'm trying to think of what movie it was, where at the end they said, "A blessing was getting old." How true is that?
Yeah. Yeah. There's all those. It's like you don't know till you know, though.
Yeah.
You don't know everything you missed out on or would have missed out on, or you don't even know that it was possible, until you're old and you see it.
Yeah. But I think that's
point.
I think that's why when you have an immediate loss, with any, family or sibling or parent or child or aunt or uncle, because you wanted to share that moment with them. You wanted them to experience it, and then when you can't get that, it's hard to sometimes watch life go on like that, and that's something that we'll struggle with our entire lives.
Right. That'll never go away.
Never go away.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait to be a grandparent, and we've even harassed Dylan. We're like, you're going to have to double up, dude, and,
You got some shoes to fill.
and, yeah, will that happen? I don't know. I hope so, I mean, but that's all you can do. You can't, sometimes you just can't wait for things. Sometimes you just got to move forward in a different direction, sidestep, but keep going forward.
Yeah.
That's
adjust and
just like taking a shot and missing, you re-aim, you zone in on a different target. If it was too long of a shot, you get a little closer, it's
you make sure your gun's level. That's something I learned.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never even thought that was a thing.
Yeah. It's a thing. It's a thing.
Readjust and refocus.
Yeah. Yeah. Life can and is and will be what you make of it.
Yeah.
The saying is you can control a lot, you can control if you're happy or not, and you can do this and that and the other. And yeah, there is. But in hindsight, what you choose now, it's sometimes the after that you've got to now handle. And did it get the outcome that you were hoping for? And sometimes it's not. Sometimes you can't control it. Sometimes it just happens. And But
it's how you react to that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's how you react to that and then adjust and refocus and move forward.
Yep.
And I mean, that's what shows character. That's what shows resilience. I mean, whatever word you want to put to it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I had all this stuff written down about work and hunting and being an entrepreneur. And I think it took a good turn though. I wondered if you were going to be open to talk about it. So I'm glad you were. And thanks for kind of being open with it and sharing a little bit of the story. And, I think the biggest thing I'm taking from this in my life and with William is just live in the moment more.
Yeah.
And there's still going to be times I get frustrated, sure, but live in the moment, but like understand that like this will never happen again. This moment will never happen again. It'll never happen when he's 18 months old. It'll never happen when he's 19 months old again. And I appreciate that. I mean, that's kind of from your story with your son. That's kind of what I'm pulling out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you always wish you could have done more.
Yeah.
Wish that every day. Think about him every day. It's just, but yeah, I mean, it's, life has been, I've been blessed. I'm surrounded by a lot of good people, and I consider them family. I have an unbelievable family. I have a huge family, and I've learned, I'm a pretty open guy, and I've learned to appreciate indifferences. Some people will get mad or object or criticize or do that with indifferences, and you start talking and building relationships before you really know somebody, then you don't have an opportunity to judge them by some of their character flaws.
Sure.
That you see as a flaw, they don't. You'll have a bigger group of people that love you.
Yeah. Yeah. And
and that's sometimes hard to do. It's tough not to judge, not to assume, to entrust in somebody or something that's out of our hands, in work and life and relationships. The main thing is to just, I appreciate everybody, good or bad, and try as best you can. Yeah. And with work, work can be very frustrating, like you say in your position, trying to manage and do something with something where time is all of a sudden crept up or absorbed. So that main cookie jar that you were creating is now shrunken down a little bit, and yeah, it's just a matter of finding that right individual, but it's hard. It's hard finding someone to replace you.
Yeah. Well, and I don't even know that you're supposed to, though. I've opened since the safe store. I've realized, after the first year, I couldn't do it myself anymore. Yeah. Like, it was growing too fast. I couldn't do it by myself. And I had to start kind of letting that go. And I think that's when I started realizing how close I had kept holsters, and how tight I had a grip on holsters was when I was kind of delegating stuff at the store. And I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens. I still haven't decided. I stripped all the stickers off my truck the other day, and it kind of became real that maybe it's not going to be a huge part of my life anymore. Yeah. It was like a symbolism to me a little bit. And people are always like, dude, what happened to your truck? Did you get a new truck? Like, no, I just took those stickers. They were cracking and they were ready to be replaced anyway, but peeled them all off. And I thought, man, maybe this is a new beginning. But anyway, man, unless you got anything else, we're about an hour and a half. So
yeah, no, this has been great.
Okay.
No, I appreciate you having me out. I'm not a podcaster, I guess, so to speak. I don't mind listening to some of them. There's a lot of good information. You get tidbits from a lot of people that are more real to life because it's semi-unscripted, I think. You get to kind of know somebody.
Well, so. And that's what all this was for me, was to bring real people on, right? Like, I was like, dude, you're just another bro figuring it out, right? And
I ain't got it yet.
But like, I mean, you've grown things, you've been through stuff, you've lost a son, you went from, that W-2 to owning your own business. Now you're venturing in to create more time to hunt. So you were one of the first people I thought of like, man, he's going to have some stories to talk about. And we've talked a handful of times, but I mean, I've learned a lot about you today too. So, I mean, it was fun for me to sit in here and listen. Yeah. So appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking a chisel to your schedule and making some time for us.
I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Yeah, I know what I'm actually going out of town tomorrow, and you just got back into town. Yep. So I know I'm going to have a stack of stuff to do on Thursday when I get back. So, anyway, that's episode 57, Brandon Armstrong, Flex Auto Center. You got, give us your address, your contact down there for Flex.
So we are located right on the border of Washington and St. George. there's the gas stations by Burton Lumber. We're right across the street from those gas pumps right there by Burton Lumber. And yeah, stop by and see us. I got a great group of guys. Terrence, who he was talking about, he's kind of my main dude up front that handles all the diesel and the issues in that. But we've created a good shop where our motto is just kind of it's a place where we would send our mothers to. You know, we have a good mentality of if we just do our job and we're honest, we don't have to look for work, and it's worked. We are busy and we are fortunate. We appreciate the customers and the relationships we have with those as it continues to grow, and they send in their friends and family. It's been fun. It has. It's been a definite good move. Every time I've moved jobs, I've got closer to home. I'm now less than a mile from home.
Yeah, that's right.
There's not much between me and home, so once one's done, I guess I'm home, right? Yeah. But no, like I say, we've been there through 19. We've gotten through all the downs. We've seen growth every single year, and we'd love to take care of you and see you.
I say the group of guys you guys have there have a huge following. Yep. You, Terrence, Kevin, they have people that are going to follow them there. So that was a big.
And we've all been in the automotive industry our entire lives, been in a different avenue.
Right.
You know, I mean, I sold auto parts for almost 8 years.
Terrence did for a while too,
dirty
right?
Stuff. Yeah.
I think Terrence did for one of the dealers, or
it's fun. And it's funny, that was one of the hardest transitions, was I was going from selling auto parts, giving up paid vacation, 401k, to, hey, you get paid for the job.
Yeah.
I'm like, honey, the pay's going to be good though, because it's a percentage of the thing. And I'm like, I think while I'm young and dumb, I may as well just try it and get on the dirty end of the stick. And with no intentions, and it just kind of, I stayed involved, didn't really go to school, but just always engaged. And I look back now, and it's been a lot of years later. So yeah, that's all I've done. I painted industrial steel for a little while, but I've basically been in the automotive industry in one way or another almost my entire life. So.
And how old were you when you bought Flex?
Let's see, that was 19. I'm now 48. I'm almost 50. I've been telling people I'm almost 50 for the last 3 years. As soon as I hit 45, I was almost 50. I rounded up. That way people would look at me and say, wow, you look really good. And I'm like, thanks.
Well, I'm almost 50, so.
I'm almost 50, so. How old are you really? Oh, I'm 45. You're not almost 50. I am.
I'm close.
When you hit 5, everything rounds up. I'm almost 50. So I'm 48, so you figure what? So I was 45.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's cool. I mean, everyone thinks you have to build something at 20 and run it for the rest of your life. And while you were building that knowledge, you stepped in at 45 and a few years later.
And it happened at a time where I really wasn't looking, things just kind of happened, and sometimes you just have to have that leap of faith and know that all will be well. And I had a good enough customer base that I was more concerned of not telling people that I got my own shop. And I actually had a couple neighbors and friends that kind of got mad at me for doing that. I'm like, well, dude, I didn't want to tell you I was open and then wouldn't be able to help you because I didn't have enough workers.
Right.
That was actually, I was more scared of that,
sure,
believe it or not. And that's still a battle. It's a battle finding good quality people, like you say. That's a struggle when you're creating something that you are involved in, that is a piece of you.
Right.
And it's hard to pass that on to just anybody.
And people are going there because of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it is. We all have a different group of people that we've dealt with over the years, and it's come to a good collective amount of customers that really, appreciate us, and we're always busy, and they drop their stuff off and trust us. And
right.
But that's what you do. Like I say, you do a good job. You're honest. You'll find happiness. And I look at success as far as I look at our shop and think that it's successful because of the quality of life it's providing to the families of those that work there,
Yeah.
So, and we all do. We all, I don't do a real rigorous schedule and try to keep it as a family, Monday through Friday. You need a day off, take a day off. You don't want to be there, I don't want you there kind of mentality.
Sure.
Kind of a thing. And it's, be invested in it. Pride needs to come back in a lot of people's efforts. That's one quality that I think is slowly going down the old sinkhole.
I agree.
People aren't very prideful for what they do. They just, and I tell that, if this is just a job to you, then go find a job somewhere else.
Yeah, we're more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been fun. It's been good.
Well, cool, man. So yeah, if anyone needs anything done, Flex Auto down past Costco, head towards Washington. After you pass Costco, you'll find them. Also Rolling Bones. We've had Brandon Neal on. If you guys have any questions, that's kind of what Brandon Armstrong does. So I consider you a sales rep. Would that be your title with them, or what would you?
No, so I'm kind of an advisor. If you think of like a real estate model, so basically, we help the hunter build application strategy, and then we also work with over 450 outfitters, where we can actually look and facilitate hunts, landowner vouchers, semi-guided to fully guided and outfitted 5-star lodging type hunts around the world. We're international. It's been fun. I've been with them for, golly, how long has it been? 7 years?
I'm gonna say I think I've known from you 3 or 4 years.
A great group of guys that co-founded that and got that thing going. There's a lot of heart and intent, and we're probably the only hunting company with the software that we have that's integrated with it's unbelievable what you can do and manage on your own, basically, your own portal.
Yeah.
So like with your membership, you have your page where everything's itemized and tracked and time stamped with all your applications, and
it's more organized.
It
than
gives you a
anything
plan.
I'm doing.
Yeah, it gives you. It's a plan of attack, like anything. We all need plans. We all need guidance. We all need help. None of us know everything, and so it's fun being in an industry that I care a lot about and love. That I have those resources now, and it's cool that I can. They've organized it in a platform where I can bring on my own client base and give them what they have and basically broker what they have direct to my customers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because of that program, I just bought a rifle off of there. With our store, we did those big frigs.
Yep.
Cups.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been a cool thing I'm involved because you send stuff to me.
Yeah.
Like I'm not on it a lot. And so it's been cool where you're like, hey, check this out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, dude, that is cool. Get me one of those, or get me a box of those coming.
Who doesn't like to save money?
Yeah.
Everyone likes to save money. And with our membership, you're going to save money, but you're also going to save a lot of time, and then your resources are, they're out of the box.
Those big frig mugs were a hit. Like we did a sell and we said, if you bought a safe, you get one free. I mean, people were like, well, can me and my wife get one? I'm like, sure, man.
Yeah.
It was a cool thing to kind of give out. And I see them around every now and then. I think we only gave away like 25 or 30 of them.
Yeah.
We probably should do that again.
And that's one area that is growing a lot now is our vendors with products and stuff. We got some good top name products at a good rate. But yeah, it's organized where, everything gets drop shipped to your house. It makes it easy to shop.
Except for guns. And
we do have guns have to go to an FFL dealer unless you're an FFL dealer.
Yeah.
It's cool. We just released basically a layaway plan.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
So where you could actually kind of finance and lay away a future hunt. So it's pretty cool. So if you're budgeted in as a group of guys that want to go do a hunt, some people might be able to write a check. Some people can't. You have the ability of scheduling that out, 2-3 years advance. However, whenever there's an opening that locks your position in that camp, and then you put a certain amount down and that locks you in, and then the remaining balance can be scaled into a monthly payment. So the unattainable now becomes attainable for anyone, really, because we all have if you're a hunter, you usually have a dream hunt, and now that puts that into a better perspective. That and our custom rifles you can put on kind of payment plans to make it more feasible to where your spouses won't hurt you too bad when you're spending the money. But
no, they gave it to me.
But again, we talk about time, right? Life is short. You gotta go out and live. Pick a hunt or an adventure where they can come along and do their thing, and you can scale off and do hunting if they don't want to hunt. But That's what's nice is we actually can kind of match make specifically what you're looking for. So you can include the whole family, people that have physical limitations, or you have kids, or this, that, and the other. It's been fun. I've been able to work with a handful of clients where I've been able to facilitate a multi-use hunt, and it's cool because it's not just, hey, this is an apple, here you go. It's like, this is an apple, but what do you like? Red, green, crisp, and we can actually kind of tailor it specifically to what you're looking for, to where it makes sense, down to the budget even. So it's cool. It's cool to be involved and be backed by such great guys with huge hearts, with crazy compassion and the ability. I mean, I wish I would have known. I wish something like this was around. I guess it really wasn't around. But 15, 20 years ago, because youth opportunities are unbelievable. And I didn't know about a lot of them, and my kids were at that age where they were growing out of the youth opportunities as I was learning about how many youth opportunities there are.
Taking advantage of more.
Yeah. And unfortunately nowadays you have to make a plan of action if you want to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I used to be able to just get an over-the-counter archery tag here in Pine Valley unit, and now, if you're a rifle hunter, you're an easy 3 to 5 year wait. In archery, you're not going to draw every year. Right. So if you want to hunt, you do a plan of action, and we kind of help spread those wings out, and then we manage it and facilitate it, put it on autopilot where you don't ever have to do it. And it's awesome. It's all tracked and logged on your own portal. So it is very intuitive.
Yeah. So so I've been through it. I've sat down with Brandon. We've video called. Now we're going on another half hour here. I've sat down with Brandon, and we've video called headquarters up at Spearfish.
Yep.
Spearfish, yeah.
Yep.
And we kind of said, what do you like? What do you not like? What do you want to do? And it was pretty much, I want to shoot animals, but I don't want to hike.
Well, you had a pretty broad list. Like, I want to kill some stuff. Like, where?
Everywhere. Where are they?
Everywhere?
Anywhere they are.
And then you pull up the hunt catalog and you're like, wow, there's hunts really everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, better start prioritizing, dude.
Right. Yeah. So that was the thing for me. I'm still trying to figure out of budget-wise how much I can do, but I want to set a goal with you, and we need to sit down and just go through it anyway. But I think it'd be sweet, just me and you go on a hunt and go do it. So we'll have to make that happen.
Yep. Maybe we'll have you on. I've talked to another couple buddies down here about doing a Sitka blacktail in Alaska. So actually, we were talking to you and your wife about that too. But I got some other buddies that may join on a hunt like that. So there's a lot of cool opportunities out there.
Yeah. So any questions on Rolling Bones, you can reach out to Brandon. We usually tag you in all of our posts and stuff. So if you're open to that, people can reach out and ask questions. And I think that pretty much covers it, man.
Okay. Yeah. Shop number, if you have a question, want a second opinion for any of your automotive needs, you can reach us at 435-218-7272.
And talk to my main man, Terrence.
Yep, Mr. T.
Yep.
Mr. T.
Okay, well, we'll wrap it up. Episode 57, we're hour and a half. Yeah, just over an hour and a half, hour and 40. So we will see you guys next week. We're 57 weeks strong, going on 58 next week. I'm going to be gone half the week, so hopefully Mallory doesn't kill me when I say we got to get this done in one day. So thanks, guys. Thanks for being here. If you're still here, please share, like, comment, rate us. We're still growing at a lot faster rate than I ever thought we would. So appreciate the support, and we'll see you guys next week.